Harry Potter, if you do not recite the spell exactly, your friend will live for eternity in the chamber of racism. Okay, Lord Voldemort, I'll recite your blasted spell. Just don't hurt my friend. The magic spell is Gentrificus Benigeristico. What? I couldn't hear you. Did you say Gentrificus N-word istico? The magic spell is Gentrificus Benigeristico. Recite the spell exactly, or she will live for eternity trapped in the chamber of racism, where she will have to listen to Whoopi Goldberg on The View every day forever. Lord Voldemort, I beseech you. Is there no low to which you won't sink? You know I can't. Harry, please help me. I don't want to listen to Whoopi Goldberg every day for eternity. Please help me. Okay, I'll do it. Gentrificus Benigeristico. Wow, Harry, you just crossed the line there. I didn't realize you were such a racist. But you told me to say the spell. Otherwise, my friend would get caught in the chamber of racism, where she would have to listen to Whoopi Goldberg. Yes, but you are still white. You can't say the N-word or any derivative of the N-word. Your friend will now spend eternity listening to Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar on The View. It's okay. Send me there. Send me to the chamber of racism. I'd rather spend an eternity listening to Joy Behar and Whoopi Goldberg than live in a world where it's okay for white people to say the N-word. Seriously, Harry Potter. Too far. Too far.
I've got a bad feeling about this, man. Don't worry about it, dude. It's okay.
I want to hang out with you, bro, but every time you wear that disgruntled USA t-shirt, how can I put this mildly?
What?
You trigger every liberal within eyeshot.
Dude, everything triggers liberals. No, maybe I'm not making myself clear, okay? Your shirt makes liberal heads explode. I know, like the feminists and everything.
Dude, their heads literally explode, like literally.
Okay, perhaps on 4 or 5 coincidental occasions, we were a witness to a paranormal event when I happened to be wearing this shirt. But what you are suggesting is crazy. My disgruntled USA t-shirts do not make liberal heads explode. Oh, they don't now.
Now that wasn't me. Well, at least this time we have waltz music bellowing from the sky. That's new.
Aw, what a bummer. That girl was kind of cute. I mean, if she would just grow her hair and shave her armpits.
How are you joking right now? These liberal heads are literally exploding.
Yeah, I guess this makes playing Spot the Liberal a little pointless.
Oh my God, it's true what they say. Liberals have no brains. I don't see any brains at all.
All right, you ready to go to Starbucks?
Yes, just do me a favor. Don't ever shop at disgruntledusa.com ever again.
Greetings and salutations. You are tuning in to the Disgruntled Millennial Podcast. My name is Brett Siegel, the Disgruntled Millennial. I always broadcast to you not live from my safe space down here in northern Florida, where I'm always free from your bigotry, racism, hatred, microaggressions, and patriarchy. And today I have a very, very, very special guest. His name is Jesse Lee Peterson. He is an American activist, author, and media personality. He does not have an afro. He has an Amerifro. When he is not rebuilding the family by rebuilding the man, he is uniting the races with truth instead of dividing them with lies. And though leftists would like to chalk it up to tokenism on my end or Uncle Tomism on his end, I just want to say I want to hand Jesse an extremely disgruntled welcome to the Disgruntled Millennial Podcast. Thanks so much for joining, Jesse.
It's a joy to be here. Thanks for having me on.
So I just want to jump right in because I got so much stuff to talk to you about. First of all, I want to start talking about fairy tales, okay? So let's begin with institutional racism in America. Why is the left so hell-bent on believing in voodoo witchcraft that they're willing to believe in things like institutional racism, implicit bias, white supremacy, and all that kind of stuff?
Because it controls people. It divide and conquer. When they hear the word, when blacks, not all, but when most black people hear the word racism, they go into a hypnotic trance because they have believed into the lie that racism exists. And when white people hear the word, they go into fear they become afraid to even function. They become afraid to disagree with it. And so what you do, you divide the races, and the children of the lie, while we're divided in that manner, they conquer us. They gain more power and wealth. If you notice, the radical Democratic Party, that's all they're saying now. They're just saying racism this, racism that, because the last 60 years or so, it has worked for them, but it's not working now as a result of the Great White Hope, President Trump. It's not working in the manner that has been in the past.
Listen, I love your Jesse-isms. I listen to your show religiously, and I love your little Jesse-isms. The Great White Hope, Obama is the fallen Messiah. Let's,
and Michelle is Big Mama.
I love it because not only does it make liberal heads spin 360 degrees like Rosemary's Baby, but you also get to the heart of some very, very interesting issues. You turn the narrative, the race narrative, on its head. Why is it? Help us unpack that. Why are you so brazen? How are you so brazen about calling Trump the Great White Hope? Because it seems like you're using their demagoguery, but against them. You're like turning their narrative around on them, and it's just brilliant. I love it. It's great.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, let me deal with the racism thing first. Okay. I grew up in Alabama. I grew up under the Jim Crow laws. I remember for whites only signs, for colors only. We used to have to plant the crop and then bring it in because the boys would be taken out of school so we could do that. And I have to honestly tell you, not one time did I hear the word racism because it wasn't around. It wasn't made up yet. We were told that it was good and even in all culture, and that we should treat people the way we would like to be treated. And so we were also reminded that our battle is a spiritual battle. It's a warfare between good and evil, right versus wrong. And then along come the so-called civil rights leaders, which was the worst thing that ever happened to this country, by the way. But They come along, and then they brought up the word racism. And it's a made-up word by the children of the lie. And the children of the lie are the so-called civil rights leaders, the liberal media, the Democratic Party, the never-Trumpers, and the right-or Republicans. They are children of the lie. There is no such thing as racism. It's a made-up word. That's why we have not been able to resolve it, because we are trying to resolve an illusion, something that doesn't exist. No such thing as racism, sexism, homophobism, Islamophobism. It's our battle. It's a spiritual battle. It's a warfare between good and evil. It's either right or wrong. It has nothing to do with male or female. It's either right or wrong. And so we have to change the language and don't go along with the same language as the children of the lie. It's either good or evil, right or wrong. And I guarantee you things will change. So no such thing as racism. Right. And I call the president the Great White Hope because it's taken a white man to come and save black people and our country. I don't know if you remember, but we had a black man in the White House, Barack Obama, the fallen Messiah.
Right.
And he almost turned America into a ghetto. Right. Things got worse instead of better for black folks and everybody. And so here comes the Great White Hope, and he's putting things back together and is helping black people and America at large. And this man doesn't care what you say about him. He's not afraid. He speaks up. You attack, he attack back. He doesn't care if you're male or female, black or white. And so he is the hope for America, a gift from God, who happens to be white.
I'll tell you something. Like I believe that 100%, and I haven't actually experienced a sort of one of those godly moments. I was raised in sort of a liberal household, and I haven't experienced one of those godly moments. But when Donald Trump won the election, and we were saved from that Hillary Clinton, that witch that was going to be that was basically poised to be president, that everybody thought was going to be president, yeah. It was one of those moments where I was like, okay, perhaps everything that they say is true. Perhaps maybe I should give this whole religion thing another shot, you know? So so this is also another thing that you like to focus on. You like to focus on rebuilding the family by rebuilding the man. Okay, because we have all this stuff about feminism. We have the Women's March. We've got the Transgendered March, and since and this also stems from the racism idea, because when white people are told how oppressive they are and how terrible they are from birth, what they end up doing is they end up trying to figure out different ways to not be the oppressor. So then they start saying, "Oh, I'm transgendered. Oh, I'm a spirit gender," and so now they're not the oppressor anymore. Now they can basically be, they could be a nice guy. Basically, they can officially be a nice guy. And then you turn around, and since it's not just about the white folks, it's also about the men too. When the men are weakened, that's when all this stuff starts to creep in. When the communist starts to creep in, because just like you always say, when you threaten the family, you actually threaten a lot more than just the family. You're threatening Western civilization and the pillars on which it's founded.
That's right. What is not realized in this country is that, and at one time it was, people knew this, there's a spiritual order to life, and that order is God in Christ, Christ in man, man over woman, and woman over children. And when you have that spiritual order in operation, life works very well. And when you break that order by removing the man, then the wife and children fall apart as well, and the country goes to hell in a handbasket, as we see happening now. What people don't realize or don't want to accept is that men represent Christ on earth. Even if they're a weak man, they still represent Christ. And so through the man, from above, it comes love, the light, strength, guidance, understanding, courage, and everything comes through the man. But when you take him out of the picture, you only have anger and doubt and fear and insecurity and everything else coming up out of hell, right? And so that's why men are under attack, because evil, which is Satan nature, has made a promise that he's going to destroy every man, woman, and child by deceiving them, and they destroy themselves. And the way that happens is you got to get rid of the man first. If you notice, in the black community, when I was growing up, men were men. Now the average black man is a woman. He act like a woman. He think like a woman. He's angry like a woman. The anger that you see in men is that of a woman. And so the average black man and black woman, they hate their mothers and grandmothers, and they yearn for their fathers. And as you know, when you become angry, whomever you're angry at, you become like them. You take on their identity. And that's why you see black men acting like black women, and they hate their mothers. So every woman they get involved with is their mother. And so in these relationships, they become mama and son, and not husband and wife or man and wife. And so we're trying to get men to go and forgive their mothers and grandmothers so that God can forgive them. And in that fallen state, God would take their mother's identity away from them and give them back their identity that they had prior to the fall, which should have been of their father, their earthly father.
And I think one of the big issues, and I think one of the big problems, is that leftism has sort of taken all the joy out of a man-woman relationship.
Yes.
I saw a video that you just did recently of these men that have basically gotten hosed by their ex-wives. And these days it's sort of, incumbent on men to sort of think about it. What is it? What's in it for me? Why should I even bother? All these women are out there sort of, the best thing they can think to do is to act like the worst kind of men, and they think that is feminism. But then when you have all these women out there just sort of acting like men, there's no reason for men to not want to go out and, do the swipe left culture, the Tinder culture, the online dating, and, just love them and leave them kind of type, because, it's like, what's in it for them? Why buy the cow when you can have the milk for free? And when buying the cow comes with all these problems, maybe your wife is a feminist, maybe she, is super into, all the feminist stuff, and then, she takes you for all you're worth because, you're just nothing but a toxic man.
Well, when men overcome that fallen state, that fallen nature of their mothers, they're going to return to their natural state, and it would be impossible to be overtaken by women, because women are subject to men, but in that fallen state, men are subject to women, and that's out of order. And so that's why things are like that. But when men return from that fallen state, you got my word that everything will start to change, and for the good. And a perfect example of that, because it's the worst thing that can happen to a woman is a weak man, a man that needs her, a man that is afraid to speak up and deal with her, a man that is not leading the way. A woman has to look at a man to see the right way to go, as men look at Christ and see the right way to go. And so we see a perfect example of that in President Trump. The worst thing for the children of the lie is a straight, white, conservative Christian male of power. And that's why they hate the great white hope so much, because he is the epitome of that. He's straight, he's white, he's conservative, he's a Christian, and he has power. And they can't stop that kind of man because he is a man of God. He's Christ on earth. And so they're not worried about the black man, or what we call the PCO, people of color.
Right.
They're not worried about them because they're already wiped out. The average black man isn't worth a dime. He has the nature of a woman. He doesn't produce. He doesn't marry the woman that has his children. He's not responsible. He relies on women and government. So he's no threat. But the last thing that's left is that straight white male. If they can wipe him out, it's over for America. We will become a communist socialist society.
Right. And in the age of cultural appropriation and white supremacy and microaggressions and all this cultural stuff, you have people saying that you can't wear a sombrero because that's cultural appropriation. But then again, they tweet all this anti-white stuff on Twitter, even though a white guy invented Twitter. So what I did a while back was I did a video called "A Day Without White Men Challenged," and I went to all these things that are like electricity was harnessed by a white man, the iPhone, the internet, computers. Basically everything that people use in order to organize their protests to hurt the white man, to rebuke the white man, to criticize the white man. They can't even organize a decent protest without using the white man's technology. So, and you don't have white people out there saying, oh, you can't use our computers, you can't use our stuff. It's them who are out there saying, you can't wear our sombreros, you can't tattoo your Chinese symbols on your body, you can't wear that Japanese dress, you can't eat at that Mexican restaurant. But then if the tables were turned, like for example, those people who text their friends about the BDS movement against Israel, you might as well save your bus fare. You don't go to that protest because just in the fact of organizing it by sending a text message, you've already agreed that Israel, you negated your entire protest. So
one of my greatest concerns, and I have many or several, but one is that I keep hearing that at some point America is going to become majority colored people and that the white people will become minorities. And I am very concerned about that because if that should happen, it's over for America. And what I've noticed is that nowhere in the world that I'm familiar with where societies are being built and everybody and their mama want to go there. It's only where white people have built great societies, right? Mm-hmm. And so white people built America, the greatest country on this side of heaven, and then they're bringing in all these PCOs, people of colors, and these people are coming from shithole countries, and they're coming here and creating America or recreating America into a shithole country, right? As the president said. And what I don't understand is, and I do understand, but it's amazing to me that white men and women are sitting back and allowing this to happen. They are not fighting back. They're not truly pushing back. And it's just weird to see that you built a great country and you made this awful mistake by allowing the people of color to come in from other parts of the world, and they're coming in hating you in your own home, and then they want to recreate your home in their image, and no one does anything about it. Just sit back and it's the darndest thing I ever seen.
It's insane. I think it comes from the idea that, in order for societies to grow, in order for cultures to grow and progress, you need to be a little bit self-critical. And that is one of the things that the West is really good at. Even way back from to the original philosophers, the more self-critical you are, the better it is, the more you can improve on your mistakes. But it can also serve as a weakness. If you are too self-critical and all you do is self-criticize, it is going to lead to things like this, where we have to feel this white guilt or something, this unearned white guilt, instead of sort of standing up for it. Because, nobody really likes to, look, I think decent people don't like to do that. They don't like to stand up and say, oh, it's because I'm white, There was when I made a Day Without White Men challenge, it was a little bit uncomfortable, But
Why?
Because ultimately I do believe that it was a cosmic coincidence that the people who, that the people who ended up, creating Western civilization and creating all the life-affirming technologies and inventions that people all around the world get to do, I think it was a cosmic coincidence that they were white. I think at the end, a one right turn or one left turn 100,000 years ago, it could have ended up in a different way. And that's why I don't think think to myself, wow, I'm white, that's great. But if they are going to do that, if they are going to push that narrative, then, I say, let's lean into it like you. I say, let's lean into it like you.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to criticize me for being white? Fine. Let's talk about the merits of what white people have done. Fine.
That's right. I was talking to my producer the other day, James, and I was telling him that it's so unfortunate that most white people, and especially white men, are afraid to push back, afraid to speak up. Because what they don't know is that if they fought back, they're going to win.
Right.
You're only losing because you're not fighting back. And so whenever you stand up for what's right, you're going to be called Uncle Tom, sellout, the N-word. You're going to get threats. But that's fine. You still stand up and push back anyway, and you end up winning. You can't afford to cower down, and don't expect that when you stand up that you won't be attacked. You will be attacked. I mean, are you married?
No, but I hope to be.
Are you dating?
Yeah.
And if you notice that whenever you stand up to your girlfriend, you don't go the way she wants you to do it, first thing she does is she try to make you feel good. And if that doesn't work, she attack you.
Yeah.
And if you respond to that, she has control over you. But
Right.
if you stand up and don't go with either way, but do what's right, you end up winning. And by white people not standing up and promoting what they've done to build a great country and what's really happening, they're losing. And then the people of color are taking over. And that's what the Democrats want anyway. They want to get rid of white people, bring in people of color so that they can maintain power. But if white people stood up, like the president is doing, these people would lose. So it's time for white men and women of good to start standing up. Let them call you names. Let them attack. It doesn't matter. You will end up winning.
Yeah, and I think that's also the crux of the issue, the attempt to weaken black people, the attempt to weaken people of color, I think that's all part and parcel of the general aspect of just weakening everybody, a race to the lowest common denominator. That's what communism actually is. That's what socialism and Marxism actually is. The LGBT and the victim here and victim there, this black victim, this gay victim, this trans victim, everybody's a victim. That's all just part and parcel of this race to the mediocre, to the very bottom, which ultimately, as we've seen before, communist countries lead to genocide. That's just a fact. They've got people like to say, oh, well, communism doesn't work. It works fine. It works 100%. Right? You just have to understand what the goal of communism is. The goal of communism isn't prosperity. The goal of communism is a race to the bottom. It's a race to the lowest common denominator. And when you sort of start to see that, you can see all these other narratives: the immigration narrative, the racism narrative, the gay narrative, everything. It puts it all into perspective for you, because that's ultimately just a part of that one big goal.
Because communism is evil. It's really evil. There's nothing good about it. I remember when Black Americans, prior to the Civil Rights Movement, were a moral people. They're no longer that. They're suffering now. They're suffering now due to the destruction of the family and the lack of moral character. And if you notice, most black people have a socialist mentality. Mm-hmm. And I want to ask you this question, if I may.
Yeah, of course. Anything.
Can you name me one city, one state, one community, one neighborhood, one person that's been voted for by majority of blacks? Can you name me anything in that, what I just named off, that's good? One community, one neighborhood, one state, one city, or one politician or one preacher that majority of blacks have voted for, and you're like, wow, that was a good thing. majority of blacks are doing something good.
I'm stymied right now. I'm sorry. I'm flummoxed and stymied. No, I have no idea.
You
No, I
can't
don't
name
think
one
there is.
location. You don't know one good person, whether black or white, that black people have some majority of blacks that have voted for or supported. It was a good person. And the reason is most black people are morally bankrupt. They're corrupt. They're socialist. They have a socialist mentality, and they hate white people. Most black people hate white people.
I've sort of noticed that a little bit. I tend to be, I really try to engage everyone as an individual, but I've noticed, more and more recently, okay? Because I was, when my father died when I was 6, we had, my mom hired a black housekeeper who basically she wouldn't work for my mom unless she could discipline us like a black, like a mother, like she was our mother. So I was basically raised by a black woman. Then my mom thought we were a little too cloistered in the Jewish community. And then she had us bust into the ghetto where I was a minority. So I learned about racism personally because I was the kid who was, I heard honky cracker white boy so many times before I was even like 7 or 8 years old that it was just absolutely ridiculous. I remember this one time when I was in class, this black girl, her name was Tarina King. She was taunting me and taunting me and taunting me, and taunting me. It was ridiculous. White cracker honky, and I just got so fed up, and I stood up and I said, "What's wrong with you, you black bee?" And then I was like 8 years old, and she she levitated and came across, levitated across the room to basically beat me up. Okay, and everyone turned around like, "Wow, Brett, wow, way to cross the line,"
That's amazing. Good for you, man.
So, and anyway, but this is why Teresa, my housekeeper, she's the one that taught me about racism. She's the one that taught me about Jim Crow. She said she used to sneak sips from the white fountain to see if it tasted like sugar.
Well, I do want to clear up that Jim Crow was not about racism.
Right.
It was a law created by the Democratic Party. It was a law that put on by the government. All white people were not for the Jim Crow law. They were against that. And that's why during the so-called civil rights movement, you had whites and Jews and others who participated in the movement in order to help get rid of that law. It wasn't about racism. It does not exist. So I want to urge you to stop using that. The Jim Crow law was wrong, but it wasn't racist.
Okay.
And throughout the history of mankind, we've had bad laws, we've had good laws, we have all kind of folks who have been enslaved. Everybody got to overcome anything, something. And they're not calling that racism. They only call it racism when it applies to the white man and black people. There were even black people who had slaves, who owned slaves in America, but they don't want to call that racism. They only want to do it when white people are involved so that they can blame white folks.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
Absolutely. Nowadays, because after a certain point, a lot of my black friends, they started distancing themselves from me. They started, and I heard about this thing, white privilege. I'm like, wait a minute, white privilege wasn't a thing last time we were hanging out together. Why is it such a thing right now? So, after a certain amount of time of getting used to that and getting used to being called a racist constantly and just about everything, you hold the door open for a woman, you're a sexist. You happen to have a car, you're a racist. You're white supremacy. You need to give reparations. So after a while of doing that, I just learned to think, okay, well, looks like I just won an argument with a liberal. If that's what I'm hearing, if I'm hearing racism, that means I just won an argument with a liberal.
That's right. Also, I know, and I want, being that you are a Jew, I didn't know you were a Jew.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
How can I tell you a Jew without you telling me you're a Jew? I don't see anything about you that look Jewish.
Let me give you my profile. Here you go.
Oh, now you look like a Jew. I've noticed that there's and I have to tell you this first. I grew up loving Israel. Mm-hmm. When I was growing up, we was taught, and I appreciate that too, that if it wasn't for Judaism, there would be no Christianity, right?
Right.
And so I grew up loving Israel, and so I finally got a chance. We did 2 trips to Israel. And it was amazing, man. It was like going back home. It was so amazing. But I noticed that there seemed to be a movement against the Jews now, because I hear some of these people calling my show or they're challenging me. They're like, you don't attack the Jews. You never say anything about the Jews. So do you see And I interviewed Richard Spencer. I don't know if you know who he is.
I do. Sure do.
And Richard, deep down in there, is a good guy. But I said to him, you're making a horrible mistake blaming the Jews for your failure. And that you're headed down the wrong path, because that's what blacks have done. They blame the white folks and look what they got for them, right?
Right.
And I said, you're making a big mistake blaming the Jews for the failure of white men or white people. Because I don't know what the Jews are doing, but no matter what they're doing, you can't blame them for your own weakness. Do you hear or see an attack coming up on the Jews?
Listen, I think that the Jews have been, do I see something imminent coming along with the Jews?
Do you hear people now, there are some white people blaming the Jews? I know some, Louis Farrakhan and all those people, they hate the Jews.
Listen.
But I'm hearing more and more white people hating the Jews.
Listen, if there's the extent of my racism is that I hate white liberals, okay? And especially, and I have a special place in my heart for white liberal Jews, okay? Because they are the worst advocates for Israel. They are the first people to scream, Palestine, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, which means the extermination of all Israelis. That's basically what that means, and I think it's absolutely incredible. And I actually feel like I need a re-bar mitzvah because my rabbi, Rami Shapiro, he happens to be an extremely hardcore leftist. I didn't know this at the time because I was 13 years old when I became a man, supposedly, but the guy who ordained my bar mitzvah was an extreme hardcore leftist, and I feel dirty now that I read his articles and stuff because the guy openly advocates for this two-state solution, which basically means one-state solution, and that one state is Palestine, which is not even a state. Yeah, it's incredible.
So what happened to the Jews those Jews that they would become liberal and go against their own country?
Well, here's what I think. I postulate that after World War II, there were a few different kinds of Jews. A lot of them were really, really scared. They didn't want anything like that to happen again, so they ran. Okay, and they ran to America. So all the Jews that are here in America that sort of planted themselves here, they're the ones that ran. The ones that stayed to fight, they're the ones who are in Israel and built Israel and turned Israel from a desert into a metropolis, into a thriving metropolis, into a gem in the middle of the Middle East, where and you can just see how all the technology over the last 50 years, the technology that's been created in Israel has just spread sort of like a virus throughout the entire world. We are using Israeli technology right this very second as we do this interview. So I think the leftists that ended, the people that ended up coming here, they are the ones that fled, and you can sort of see that they flee from charges of racism, they flee from charges of sexism. They are the white liberals, the liberals here, the liberal Jews who are basically, they're the ones calling Trump a Nazi, which is insane because now, which is completely insane because they also call Israel Nazis. How did the Jews become Nazis? Israel, the place that was literally founded by people who they went from the concentration camps right over into Israel. How does that make sense?
I noticed that the Palestinians, they don't want, it's not about the land or any of that. They want the Jews dead. Mm-hmm. They want to push them into the ocean and kill them. And as I hear you speak, I'm thinking of there are blacks who are liberals, right? Mm-hmm. So-called black leadership and others. And it's so amazing to me that they would be liberals. And so it just confirmed for me that in every culture there is good and evil.
Right.
And liberals are evil. They represent their father is Satan. And so in every culture, this spiritual battle is happening, and it really has nothing to do with the physical. It's the God that you serve. If you're on the side of good, then you're on the side of what's right. On the side of evil, Satan is your father. Is this rabbi still your rabbi?
No, I haven't. No, I actually had a falling out with him. I went and I publicly renounced him. I renounced my entire bar mitzvah. I renounced all that Unitarianism and all that reformism. I can't stand that. It's just a place for a bunch of liberals to get together and hate on their fellow Jew, and they hate on conservatives and all that reformist Unitarian stuff. I can't stand it. It makes me sick to my stomach.
Right on.
I know.
Nice.
I know you got a hard break coming up because you're going to go visit Adam Carolla, and that's going to be a great interview. I couldn't be more jealous and envious of you, and I got to go check my creator to get that envy checked out. But I want to ask you a couple quick questions before you get off.
All right.
Do you love white people?
I love white people.
Okay.
Have you noticed how many people cannot answer that question directly?
Right. I think it's really funny because the Black Lives Matter folks, they'll say, you say, do you, Black Lives Matter, and then you say all lives matter, and then they call you a racist, and then you say, do you love white people? And then the first thing that comes out of their mouth is like, oh well, I love all people.
I got to ask you one.
Hit me.
What is a man?
A man is, oh my goodness. I think a man is someone who is independent and...
You think?
No. I knew you were going to do this to me. A man is someone who is independent and can stand on his own 2 feet and doesn't let other people tell them, doesn't let other people dictate his perception of reality, which if he's really a man, then his perception of reality is closest to reality. We have all this stuff, Hillary Clinton saying, your truth, my truth, his truth, everybody's got their own. No, I think what a man does is a man is as close to reality as humanly possible, and he knows it and he's willing to stand up for it. Absolutely.
Are you surprised when you hear me ask people that question, what is a man? And they go like, what is a man?
No, I'm not surprised at all. Honestly, like I'm like, you could write a book with all of your isms and tactics and all this cool stuff. And I mean, you could really, I think you're just doing such a great job, and it's such an amazing thing that you're doing. You're turning the narrative right on its head, and you're fighting the race pimps. They're fighting the race hustlers, just like Donald Trump does. And I couldn't be any more glad that you're out there doing your thing. Did you have fun?
Thank you. I had fun. This was great, man.
I had fun too. I really hope that we can do it again. This is Brett Siegel, the disgruntled millennial. I want to give a shout out to Jesse Lee Peterson. You can find all of his information in the show notes. You can get me at disgruntledusa.com, and there you can get the best swag ever. This is my Proud Capitalist shirt. You can check that out. You just click on the Freedom Store. You can get the best American freedom swag ever. It makes lefties' heads spin. It makes their heads explode left and right. Again, I want to thank you so much, Jesse Lee Peterson, for joining the Disgruntled Millennial podcast.
Thank you, buddy. I had fun. It was great.
Harry Potter, if you do not recite the spell exactly, your friend will live for eternity in the chamber of racism. Okay, Lord Voldemort, I'll recite your blasted spell. Just don't hurt my friend. What's the spell? The magic spell is Gentrificus Benigeristico. What? I couldn't hear you. Did you say Gentrificus N-word istico? The magic spell is Gentrificus Benigeristico. Recite the spell exactly, or she will live for eternity trapped in the chamber of racism, where she will have to listen to Whoopi Goldberg on The View every day forever. Lord Voldemort, I beseech you, is there no low to which you won't sink? You know I can't. Harry, please help me. I don't want to listen to Whoopi Goldberg every day for eternity. Please help me. I want to, but I can't. Gentrificus N-word istico. That's not the spell. Okay. Okay, one more time. Let me try one more time. Gentrificus istico. Harry Potter, you have one more chance to say the spell exactly. Gentrificus benigeristico. I can't. I'm so sorry. I can't say the spell, even to save your life, because it's not politically correct. Damn you, Lord Voldemort!
Hey dude, nice shirt. Thanks, man. Appreciate that. What does it say? World Microaggression Champion? Yeah.
What does that mean?
Yeah, it's a brand new alternative for people who support the Second Amendment in cities where gun laws are a little bit tight, you know? I got it from disgruntledusa.com. The designs are so triggering. You don't even need a gun to defend yourself. Feminists take one look at it and blood starts coming out of their eyes and, they spontaneously combust.
That's pretty awesome, man.
Check this out. Watch this. I'm going to show this girl across the room. You see that feminist over there with the short purple hair and the hammer and sickle on her shirt? Watch this.
That's great.
What is that? What? Native American feathers? He can't do that. That's cultural.
This is the best.
Oh my God!
This is the best part.
Trail of Tears. White supremacy. Oh my God. What does that say? America is the best country in the world?
Where did you say to get those shirts again? DisgruntledUSA.com. Just click on the Freedom Store.
Well, I'll say thank goodness that Donald Trump done legalized white supremacy. Ever since I joined the force, I've been dreaming of the day I could put the hurt on them racial and social minorities.
Yeah, I hear you. I done opened up a hefty can of whoop ass on 4 of them faggots just yesterday.
Haha, for what?
Nothing. They were just acting all gay and stuff. Those pants were so tight I could see his religion.
Well, what do we have here? Well, God has just blessed us with a runaway negra. I do believe that man is driving while black.
Well, come on, Billy Joe, let's get him.
Put your hands outside the window, boy. Don't make me tell you twice now. Have your license and registration ready. Turn that music down, boy!
Can I help you, officer?
Oh, wait a minute, you ain't no name. You know why I pulled you over?
This nigga, of course I do, man!
I'm driving while black. You see a black man driving down the road, and you think you can just pull him over without no due process and no judge and jury and taking away his constitutional rights, man? Yes, but, no. We mistook you for, a jigaboo, okay? The law says you can't be driving while black, and you are clearly not a black man, so you're free to go. What you talking about, man? I am black. Everybody know the black and the berry, the sweet and the juice, and I'm as black as they come. Now that institutional racism is the law of the land, I could get in trouble for beating up on a white boy. Man, pick up that baton, beat me till I'm dead, or I'm gonna sue the city for discrimination. False alarm, Billy Ray. It's just Sean King again. My, that boy's about as confused as a fart in a fan factory.